do career development in terms of helping you guys connect to employers and companies and also entrepreneurs, complex ones because they're very interesting. For me, that is where I get my passion from. I've been a recruiter for the last 5 years plus in a startup, also Kamakazi Africa, different industries, and I'm looking forward to having an interesting chat with you guys.
Hi, everyone. We were very, very horrified that we're going to be late. Miss Tuvi, and I look after HR for A. I think our value proposition is about driving impact, not just in Kenya, but across Africa, and how we can digitalize things to make Africa a more exciting space.
Hi, good evening. We all look sad. Is it the rain? And I strategically sat here so that I can take away the Njuguna's view so that no one is thinking about going there now. Yeah? Are we cold? Anyway, my name is Philip, but before I introduce myself, how many people have heard about C Squared? Only 2. What a sad story. Anyway, just C Squared is a Google company, and we are a Pan-African tech company which specializes in fiber networks. We operate. It's a spin-off. Anyone who is maybe knows about Google. Google incubates companies and spins them off. We call them spin it. And once they spin it off, they either chuck it or they sell it. Mitsui, which is a Japanese company, as well as Convergence Partners South Africa. So that's C Squared. So if you don't know about C Squared, please just go and look.
Know you better before we go into the conversation. Yeah. So this is for the camera because he's doing a live stream. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to meet you guys. I'm really sorry I'm late. The rains did something on me, so kept me away for too long. Thank you guys for having to wait for me to come by. My name is Brian Nyagol. I'm an engineer by profession, electrical. I work at Davis & Shatcliffe in R&D department, research and development. And I'm partly charged with helping drive the company's digital innovation initiative with regards to digital manufacturing and IoT. And I saw Thuku here. I also operate a company called Brainverse Technologies that specializes in providing digital solutions for African companies, the ones that I called Africa 2.0, guys who know that digital technologies is beneficial to the business. So I think that the two things, what I do at Davis & Shatcliffe and at Brainverse Technologies sort of complement each other, and that makes it a very good mix for me to be able to thrive in it. So I think we'll be having a better discussion in the coming few minutes, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Just a quick check. Do I need to use this or they can? You're gonna have to bear with me going across the room, guys. Sorry. So So now I want to ask. So we were supposed to have a CV session. I am going to go again. You can email, but so what we are going to do now is I want the panelists, all of them, to share their experiences in terms of how they applied for their first roles. I think, Philip, that was 22 years ago, was it? Okay, I don't know how long it was for the rest of the panelists, but I want to start with Thuvi. Let me start with you, actually. And how long ago was it, and what was the experience applying for your first role?
Okay, so I think my first proper job was actually with HSBC, and I applied through their graduate trainee scheme. I think this was in 2010. It's not too long ago, as I'd like to think. I think how it was designed was that we had an assessment center, and I think they had global benchmarks. So you had to go through a series of numerical reasoning tests, verbal reasoning tests, And then I think you're invited to do an inductive reasoning test, which is not drastically different to the methods that I use to date, because I think my team was reviewing how we wanted to incorporate best-in-class recruitment practices, and they're still available. And it's sort of like doing, like, you know, the SATs, right? But in a more intense fashion. And I think after that, once you make that cut, then you go into round 2, where you do like negotiation role plays with senior leadership. And then I think you do a case study. And then you have people who are on the exco. And I think that they shortlist.
The roles that, how you see people applying. What was the one thing that, what's the one thing that you say that, enabled you to go through the whole process? And now, Jeva, with your local
Current experience,
of coming over to junior, and what do what people looking out for getting into roles, and they are in perhaps a place where they want to go into
Sure.
the next place, where how do you gel that?
So I think, I mean, to go through that is quite exhausting sometimes. And I think I was very clear that I wanted to work in the banking industry at that point, because I thought it'll really, but nonetheless, is that the grit and the resilience is what gets you through the rigorous interviewing process, given that it's actually,
Thank you so much.
welcome.
I want to ask the same question to Elizabeth, then I'll start with the ladies, and then I'll come to the gentlemen. So Elizabeth, your first role experience and what you're doing now, and what what are you better? Thanks.
Okay, that's a very, very deadly question to ask me. Because I need to tell you, I do have a graduate structural engineering degree, and I became vice president of the organization. So my first job, in essence, selling people, selling products, selling international opportunities, that was my first job. My second job, again, within the same organization, I am a business development manager for a recruitment. I do not have a traditional career. I am what my skills do, not what my pieces of paper do. And I do what I feel like doing, but that's not a good place to do things from. All right. So I am a mess of a career, but I have never asked anybody to help me with money.
Do my attachment there, because in 2015, the company was looking to, one of the company's biggest suppliers was, one thing my boss always for them.
Campus, because I was always interacting with guys. By profession, I wanted to become a DJ. I went to a DJing school, completed that, but my parents were like, no, DJing won't feed you. At that time, we had that notion whereby it wasn't a serious career. So I got an opportunity to work with a client service company, which is called CAPS, and I met the interactive with guys a lot. So he asked me, I have something in mind, and I'll interview. First, it's an online assessment that you do, you submit, then you're invited. So I was able to make it through the online assessment. And when I got interviewed, I was interviewed by the MD. And then number 2 comes to attitude. What kind of attitude do you have from a different universe in terms of thinking? But I believe the most important to another, because I was
One of the panel members actually is in hotel have been struggling with here is around body language, because you might have the entire skills, you might have the papers, but if I'm looking at you and you're looking on the other side, for me is a go. That's nothing. I can't even talk to you. So I was lucky. I got in, and my first job was a front office assistant supervisor, and that is with the Hilton Park Lane. For anyone who can Google, that is one of the best hotels in London. I worked there for 6 months. I could not take the stress. I think I was very young, because people abusing me and telling me off, and then you're telling me you're slouching, you're not looking me in the face. I'm Africans, I don't talk to you in the face. That's what I was brought up as. You don't look the elders in the face, and that was my upbringing. So I struggled. And then obviously I was always being called to HR, you know, because Philip has done this. And so one time I said, goodness me, even these HR people don't, they don't do anything, because I felt like they were actually not doing anything, seriously, because whatever they were telling me I already knew. Yeah. So I said, when I got a bit bored of what I was doing, I said to one of them, I said, can I do your job, please? And they thought I was joking. I said, let me, because I'm tired of that, let me do this for a week. Because we're doing rotational, but for me, because I think I was a bit stubborn, I refused to go to the kitchen. Because with the hotels industry, you have to do the entire rotation. Front office, food and beverages, which I loved a lot because, exactly, no, alcohol. But at that time, not now. So I refused to go to the kitchen, and I didn't want to lay the beds or just supervise. So I said, let me go to HR. Yeah. And they were refusing. So I said I would do it for free for 2 weeks. And you know what, I was using my experience of what I've been doing, in terms of how I've been talked to as an employee, and I tried to change that, flip the coin. And I decided to go back to school. It's like, this is not me. Let me just try this one. Yeah. So I worked for different organizations. I'll start. Let me anyone knows. And I was like, no, I will do it. So because I was really determined to come back home and get I don't know. Most people tell me that I fit in any market you can get. I'll be within a week, I'll have learned the ways of working.
Are all of you getting the PowerPoints from this side? Or is it just me who's feeling like, there are so many PowerPoints from this side? And just to get a feel of the room, how many are in entry level? Okay, senior level? Senior level, guys? Okay. So a majority distribution is middle level, right? So I think what also is for the audience when we had in mind this session was for them to know, how do you graduate from one place to the other? How all of you, have had impressive careers. You've stepped from one place to the other. What are the keys to doing that? What really, not what is the one thing and not the usual, your run-of-the-mill stuff that we hear outside here, or, that you can give from your experience that the audience would say, use this as a checklist. Yeah, Philip.
So that as a recruiter or as an employer, but I also answer that as an employee. As an employee, like I told you guys, whenever I'm given a chance, I excel myself. And for me, my career is in my hands. The organization doesn't own that to me, because she's an HR person, I am. We're doing exactly the same, but what sets us apart is our different capabilities. And for you to excel in an organization, and you remember that an organization is not one person, it's a group of people, it's a team. So for you to excel in any environment, you need to differentiate yourself and give yourself a brand. What defines you? How do you do your job? I'm an HR person, she's an HR person. What defines me away from her? So that is me positioning myself in any environment. And like I said to you guys, I can fit in any organization that I go to. And I've said to myself, I know for sure that if I go to this environment, first of all, I need to learn their culture, importantly. I need to work there. With the culture comes the ways of working. And then the third most important thing, I think, the overall vision of that company. Once you know those three, you fit yourself into that. I call them the three boys. Which one can you quickly run with? For me, I actually say the culture is very important. So flipping that to now as an employer, for anyone who knows the culture of Google, it is a very, very free environment, which is, I can't describe. If anyone can visit me, I'll show you what we do. We don't have, yes, I'm the group head of HR, I'm a senior, I'm an executive, but you wouldn't see that when we're seated together with my team, okay? And for me, when I am looking right now, whether it's entry, whether it's senior, whatever level it is, I've just recruited a CFO for the group. And for me, it was a headhunt via London. But I told the guys, the person has to fit in this culture. because if they don't fit, they all have their technical aspects and everything else. If they do not fit in the culture, they will fail. You understand? Because it's a culture where, you see me, I'm dressed, okay, today is Friday, but I'm always dressed in jeans and stuff like that. So if I come in as a country manager with my tie, do you think I'll be able to talk to my PA proper? She'll be intimidated. If I go to the junior engineer, I'm telling her, you jump on the plane, go to whatever it is, they'll just feel, they won't even say anything. But I like to have a discussion with them and so that they can understand. For me, so that is very, very important when I'm recruiting people. Like he said, nowadays, please don't give me your CV, which has, my age is this, or I'm married to so I am a Christian. That's not important to me at all, yeah? What differentiates you from the next person you are with, yeah? If I was to set you into a room, and this is something she did, there's sometimes some companies which used to do assessment centers, where you sit down and you reason, on a given a subject or something like that. And so the recruiters will be on the other side watching you. So what sets you, nowadays we don't really do those, but we do actually what we call competence-based. I will ask you competence-based questions. And I want you to tell me within seconds of what you are. But if you tell me, I'm married this, my name's also and so, you've already lost it, because I'm not interested. Sell to me your skills, the transferable skills that he's talking about, so that we can save each other's time and move on. Sorry, am I being rude or but that is the point I'm trying to set. Whenever you're writing your CV or whenever you're going for an interview, first of all, what I said, posture, body language is very important. I know we're Africans, we are put in a state of norms and beliefs, yeah. But if I can't talk with her eyes, I can't talk to her. Yeah? So recruiters are looking for that, but you can actually see that on the paper.
Thank you. Career therapy level. That institute gets very involved in trying to work through employer campaign for a tier 1 event like Black Friday, like the t-shirt I'm wearing right now. That essentially is, you get your hands and work on a project that may not necessarily be in your domain. Put your hand down, always put your hand up, because even regardless of the outcome, you are still going to learn something. And the other thing that I strong business pulls through and is successful is that sometimes the cornerstones of a failure really teach you far more than any success does. So I think essentially learning from that can really, really help you. I think management piece, because that requires a lot of emotional intelligence. In fact, it's about making
progressions. What have you seen with some of the things that they've perhaps done?
To career progression, I would agree with what Tuvi and what is happening around the organization for you, because she might not be in today, up a lot of materials and apply them in your day-to-day tasks. The other, it's a large term to use, but what do I really mean by that? So, for example, in our office, where I'm currently working, abilities, digit and say, I was hired to do this, and you stick to that, you'll never go anywhere. What happens in the back door as well? Through that, you'll acquire skills, and it also give you opportunities when doors are.
You sell your time. You are a product. As a product, you have to content produce around your career. You have to tell a story about where you're going. When I said 1, 3, 5, you have to constantly be planning for your product to develop in 1 year from today, 3 years from today, and 5 years from today. And there are parameters for doing that for yourself as a product, as you manage your own goal going higher. How much do you make? What do you make? Who are you professionally? What skills do you need to succeed professionally a year from today to be competitive? 3 years, do the same thing. 3 years from today. What do they call you in difference? I really believe if you know your value and know how to sell your tool, what other roles do I need to take in order to be strategic? And you can jump, yeah? You're not in competition with other people, you're in competition with yourself. So you go from your graduate level a year from today, 3 years from today, you're in mid-management area. I really do.
Sort of unpacking framework. The audience can give an example of the roles they're in, and then you can go, then you need ABC. So we'll come to it, but yeah, right.
Right, at one stage to another. When someone work with and comes after like a long distance, and this is the person that you need to support and give him or her the confidence that you can be able to take a position that is just above what you're doing at the moment. And one thing you can normally do, like she said, because they work directly under, that you are capable of getting to where you want to go. Because even if you are capable and they have no idea, they would never vouch. The answer he gives has got more answers to give to other bosses as well. So that position to vouch for your ability to climb up the ladder. I think that will give you a better ground in terms of going to the next level. And to really manage to your
People who want to move in tech also.
I know most of you, like you said, are employed, and if you're in tech, you probably have ever done something on the side, right? You've done a project, you've done something for someone, for family or friends, and that is a side project. But not all of us, now in Kenya, we all want to be at some point owning our own companies or having our stay-at-home jobs, right? So one thing that I think that you have to put in mind before, as you build your side job, because no employer will ever be so happy about your side hustle. No one. They will never, I was saying, they may like it. They may like the fact that you want to grow, but they will always be worried about it. Always. So how do you circumvent that worry and make them be confident in you, at the same time have enough courage to build your own stuff? If you know where you want to go, if you have that piece of vision in your head and you know that in the next 5 years, I want my company or my business to be at this level, that is the only thing that will act as your steering wheel. One thing else, something else that you have to attach to that vision is the fact that the company you work for is not yours. So you can go anytime. And so it means you have to please them and make them feel like you love what you do, okay? So after you know those two things, that the company is not yours and you know where you want to go, it gives you a gateway to the next thing, positioning yourself. I live about 10 minutes walk from my workplace, and the reason I decided to do that is because it's more expensive, of course, but I thought to myself, if I live far away, like where I take about 1 hour to get to work, it means I lose 2 hours in the day, right? But you can use 2 hours as a developer to do something that that will really sell. In fact, you can do a whole prototype in 4 hours, and I can take 4 hours out of my day to do that. So that is positioning yourself to enable you be able to run your business while not using the time of your employer. Because the moment you have no time to work on your business, you do two things. You'll either give up on it, or you will steal your employer's time, which is not okay. So you position yourself to be able to build what you're building. One other thing is that now, after positioning yourself, you now have to make sure that you see how they say you cannot get rich quickly in most of these things. So you have to know that your business will take time to grow. And one of my tipping points that I looked at was, I said that the day my business will pay me 5 times more than what I'm being paid in employment, that's when I'll be sure that I can get out. And paying you means your salary at your side hustle, not the gross income of your side hustle. No, that's not yours. That's for the company. If you have a side hustle and you're paying yourself the entire sum, please, it's not your money. It's the company's money. So that is, in your plan, you need to form a tipping point, something you look up to, a sign. How do you know you're getting there? So that tipping point will enable you to make the right decision when you need to quit. When you need to either stay full-time on your side hustle or still continue working for your employer. That tipping point will give you a very big next step. And the last thing is, is to test. Give your business some bills to pay. If your business doesn't have bills, you'll never be so much in a hurry to build it. You'll be like, I only need to, pay these small things. If you don't give your business a test, what I did is I told my business, you guys, I need you to pay, because I work from home. My office is at home, so my house is my office. So you pay half of my rent. So my business starts paying half of my rent. After that, I tell him, okay, now I use my internet, paying my internet. Then it's paying my internet. So I've trained my business to take care of some bills that I would be doing on using my own cash. And therefore, the business, I have to fight to make sure this bill is paid. So it means I have to go out there and get clients to work for them and get paid. That is something that you do. Once you do that, you get more people into the team, you recruit more people, you keep training your business to have bills. And then later on, it will grow to something that you want it to grow. And the last stage probably is to stay on a growth curve. And growth to me means people, systems. That is the most important thing. If you can get people around you who can pick up your vision, because you will still be working, but you can decide that you are working but you have full-time employees, right? At some point, you have to make sure that you like diversify the whole thing and make sure that you get dynamic people who can be able to understand the kind of company you want to build. And when you're doing something like that, the people you need are the people who, like he said, understand the vision of that company and know where they themselves want to go and take that company to. I hope these 5 points help you, pick up that journey and manage what you have much better and make it something much bigger in the future.
Would have thanked you that we were going to get some insights on side hustles, right? Alongside growing our careers in tech, I think it's quite important. And then Brainverse is in tech, right?
Yes.
So what you develop technology for?
Yeah, we developed, what we normally say at Brainverse is that, there are many tech companies, right? And they normally say nowadays all companies are tech companies because they identify or they realize that using tech to diversify their business will help them stay at the top. So what Brainverse does is kind of creates a way in which businesses, majorly in Africa, can be able to take advantage of technology to reduce waste, to increase efficiency, and diversification, and being able to to achieve the objectives. And in that we develop systems. And one of the biggest systems we have done, I think, is for a company that does exactly what Help does. It's one of our flagship projects. We develop like the entire infrastructure for banking to system loans management entirely. Like if you went through Help, we have been able to deploy a system like that for a private company here in Kenya. And our key areas of focus is on systems development, brand design, and application development. Yeah. And currently we are a team of 8. We onboarded 6 more people in the past 2 weeks, and 3 entry level guys, and 3 intermediate level employees. Yeah.
Guys, it's a side hustle, by the way. So, catch Brian after this, and he's got some very impressive insights how to also not, to avoid the mistakes that he says he made when he started out in entrepreneurship. So that's a conversation.
If I just say one thing, something always arises when, and this is something I talked to my boss about before I came to talk about this thing, is that there's normally a conflict of interest between your job and your side hustle. I am an electrical engineer by profession, but I'm employed majorly as a software somehow engineer, you see, and my company is in software as well. So there might be very little conflict of interest because the company I work for doesn't do software as its core business. It does water, energy, equipment, right? So you might want to take care of conflict of interest because you must address it. And the best way to do it is to address it with your boss and let him know. Because like I said, in any organization, the person who would vouch for you the best is the person you work under, is the person that will support you, is the person saying, no, you can't lay off this guy. I need him. So he's the guy you need to build rapport with and let him understand the scope of what you do outside of work. And like I said, you have to be aware he may not like, he may like it, but he will always be worried about it. So you have to give the confidence that you're doing your job as you're running your side business. Okay, it's my boss who told me, you need to come to places like this and talk about what you do, and not be in the forefront. He told me you cannot be, the officer in the officer and the foot soldier in the front line. And you can imagine the kind of rapport I had built with him for him to tell me that. So you really have to talk to him because he'll tell you when you're going wrong. He told me something when I did something on my LinkedIn profile that made me change how I work. And I can tell you for a fact, my LinkedIn profile has both my company and the company I work for. But I somehow make sure that the company I work for stays at the top because it's where I'm located. If the company's partners Google me up, they find the company there. I think that sort of helps.
You might not like me. Anyway, but he's just mentioned something around conflict of interest, which is very important. As you know, all the tech industry, it's revolving on a second by second. So you need to to keep running constantly. So conflict of interest, what we do in where I work, and I think most of the companies I've worked for, we do a disclaimer immediately. So if you have anything on the side that has anything in line, for me in where I work, that would be a conflict of interest because you're kind of in the same line of work that I do. So we'll just need to have a discussion around it. So why the question was, or your comment was, is that organizations don't like people with side hustles. It's not really that me, like for example, as a country manager here, I'm responsible for a P&L, and I'm looking for money to come in, and I want 120% productivity or performance. I can't say that if you are seated in the office for 7 hours, you're producing. No. But I want to have as much as possible from you. In fact, I call it, I'll milk you until you're dry. So, seriously.
Speaking from a country manager.
No, unfortunately, let me tell you something. Once you sign on that dotted line,
yes,
and that's a contract, the company will milk you until you're dry. And if you have the ability now to produce some other milk for your other side hustle, that's fine. But the danger with most times, with especially you young ones, and I'm speaking directly to you, is that you want to get rich quickly. And that sometimes is the aspect of getting to the side hustles because you feel that you're not paid enough. Him is using it as a passion to grow, but others are using it as a quick win to get money. Okay? And that way, if you have that in your head, unfortunately, it's going to ruin your career because you're not going to concentrate on the job that you're given on a day-to-day, what we call the day job. So your concentration will be on how much money I'm doing at the side, my side hustle. It doesn't matter what it is. It might be something, rearing chicken, for example, and your mind will be that how much money I'm doing. So be very, very careful. How able are you to balance that side hustle that is not going to affect my work? Because at the end of the day, your life 8 to 7 or 8 to 5 is mine. That time I'm paying for it. So that is one. And I'll tell you, there is no organization that, where we have structures that is going to look at you and say, oh, by the way, fine. Okay? So that brings me back because, to be honest with you, the environment I work in is so fast, that everything now, as you know, we are a fiber company. We are not operating in Kenya because Kenya is saturated with the fiber. We have Safaricom, we have we have Liquid. That's the kind of work we construct and we lease out. So those should have been, Safaricom would have been my client here, but he's not. In other markets like Ghana, Liberia, I have MTN, Airtel, and Uganda, we have Airtel. So those are kind of the things we say. And the reason I'm saying is that it is so busy, it is so fast that if as an engineer you miss just an aspect of time, you are behind. Okay? So in terms of growth, when you enter into the organization, whichever level you enter at, unfortunately right now we are, because we're also almost like a startup, we don't take entry level. We start at 3 years to 4 years engineers because I want my engineers, if I'm sending you to DLC, to be a standalone. That is how we work. I will send you, I'll say which is your specialism, IP, We have IP and rollout in Liberia, jump on the plane, go there, and you will not have a supervisor. Your supervisor will be remote. We do everything on Hangout. So we start from there. And then senior management, which will be your probably head of the departments. I don't have a lot, but we recruited that. But anywhere we start in, because we are startup, I tell people I don't have the capacity to develop you vertically in terms of promotion. I'll develop you laterally. Yeah, lateral means that my sister just said the JD you get today, by tomorrow is changed, because by the time I tell you we're rolling out Backbone in DRC, Lumumbashi, something like that. By the time you leave Lumumbashi to come back to Nairobi, you would have done a job that probably would have involved 4 people. But if you're the kind of person who would tell me, oh, Mr. Sakwa, God, I've worked here, how much are you going to pay me? I'll look at you and I'll say, you are lost. But if you come and tell me, give me more, yeah, we'll be seated in that boardroom and say, do you know that man called Lawrence? He's just come back from this project. That is how we develop our capacity, and also in terms of talent management. We look at flexibility in terms of not just jumping on a plane, but in your thinking. We look at achievement and also input, because if you go there and, because you're free, we give you the money, and you don't perform, obviously you've done it and you're done. One of the key things that I tell people, I've just sent a young man to Uganda. He's been there for a week. I call him my baby because he's only 25. He's in IT. So we are building a client management system, and is the main developer for that. This young man has never been on the plane. He's never been out of Kenya. Yeah. So I told him, please go to Kampala. It's just next door. And when you're there, put on the flag of Kenya, but also put on a flag of you as a person, because he does a lot for me here. And I said to him, I want the people in that country to call me and say, wow, this is fantastic. And believe me, on Tuesday, I got a call from the country manager in Kenya. She's like, oh, please, can I have so and so for 2 weeks? Not because there's a lot of work, because the guy took on a mentorship that we didn't even tell him to do. He said, oh, these guys actually, I've noticed they don't do ABCD, let me do it. You understand? So for me, that has opened the door for him in terms of what next. Because if he comes back to Nairobi, my thinking is that I can't utilize him here, constantly. Maybe put him on a plane to go to Ghana. So that is the thing that is going to propel you to the next stage. Please, 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 and I always say please, do not look at your job and you say it's going to make you rich tomorrow. You are going to make yourself rich by way of thinking big. When you think big, the time that he's doing, I like the way that he's, I admitted that he's doing a side hustle to develop his career long term. When you go to an organization, and I tell this to people, they think I'm mad. If you enter that and you sign the contract, please always look around, where is the exit? Yeah? The exit means, what am I going to do in this organization to exit nicely? To have Jackson to call me and say, hey, there's a job here, are you okay? Can you get it? Yeah. If you sit in an organization and you don't know how you're going to exit, then you're lost. So please, middle, senior, the buzz is always the same. Give yourself the flexibility in terms of learning, flexibility in terms of doing the job, but also flexibility in terms of being ahead of anyone else in terms of performance. Okay, laterally, not upward. Most of the companies that we have, sorry, I don't want to talk so much, but most companies are running on what we call flat structures. So the hierarchy is not there anymore. It's not like the government entities that you knew, oh, if I do this diploma, I'm going to go this. It doesn't. So, unless someone shoots me, no one is going to be a country manager until I decide to leave, or no one is going to, you understand what I'm saying? No one is not going to be the group head of HR for C Squared until I decide to leave. But does that mean that someone cannot do part of what I do? They can. And I believe in delegation of authority because for me, I think I've reached my sunset years of work. So I always like to give people as much as possible so that they can grow, not the stomach, but, the capacity to walk in, the skills that you need anyone, Jackson, to call you and say, what do you have? In C Squared, this is my JD, but I do this. And by the best people to train you in that way is Chinese. Go and work for Huawei. Because you'll do this. So please just open your mind. Always have that. Don't be so narrow-minded. Oh, I'm going to be like this. Otherwise, you're going to be a fraud.
Do you guys want to hear more? Or, because I want to go to Louis and then, so career progression, for people that you've brought in the company, not perhaps yourself. Jackson, the same question for you, and we'll finish off at Liz, and now we can do the 1-3-5 framework practically with someone in the audience, and then we'll see from there if the audience wants to hear more or ask the questions. Yeah, and if you guys have some more time, I know someone is catching a flight, but yeah, so if you guys have more time, then sure. Go ahead.
I think it'll be useful. Do I still need to use this? I'm good.
Yeah,
You guys can hear me, right? I need to?
Oh,
Okay.
yes, because
Sorry.
of the live stream, yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think couple of stories really at Jumia. So, I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat, right? Jumia is an extremely tough environment to work in, but it's also equally a very rewarding environment in terms of learning. So, like Philip said, I mean, it essentially really expands you in terms of learning. The growth curve in terms of on-the-job exposure and training is enormous, and you can never I mean, that's something that, I can vouch for, and everyone who's been part of Jumia or ex-Jumia can vouch for as well. So having said that, I mean, a couple of examples come to mind. And recently we were trying to feature a series of people who actually are Jumia ambassadors who have actually made it. So I think one interesting story recently was about this guy who essentially now heads vendor experience. And I think, I mean, lots of these guys have come in as interns. They've started off just as interns, some of them even unpaid. And I think what they may have started off then from there would have been, getting into like a customer service agent or vendor experience agent role. But it's essentially what sets them apart is how much they've been able to create value for themselves and the company. And it's not just achieving your KPIs, which are by design quite astronomical as well, but also in terms of the relationships you're building with your other internal and external stakeholders. And it's only then when other opportunities crop up. So with this, the current head of vendor experience, I believe that people had always noticed how he was so personable whenever he spoke with the vendors. And then the next thing that happened was he was given the task to train vendors. And what he did was he took it upon himself to learn coding and put up a system in place whereby vendors could log in and actually self-access training materials on how to make themselves represent themselves at their best on the platform. And I think that is an enormous achievement because no one told him to do that. No one ever asked this guy to go learn coding. No one even directed that. He just came up with that initiative and it's still rolling today. Then he implemented something called Vendor University. And today he is head of vendor experience. And I think he also came up with something very cool that was called the Magic Wand, which is essentially something that we use sort of to speed up the flow of inventory from vendors to customers during tier 1 campaigns. And I mean, this is just because he came up with an idea and decided I don't want it to just stay stagnant at an idea stage. I just want to make sure it's executed and I defend the idea. I think there are many similar examples, and you've seen those guys' career trajectories grow higher and quicker. I think we currently have someone who looks after performance within Jumia advertising space, which is a very, very new space that we're excited to explore. And that essentially is a guy who also built a system on his own just to make sure that, in terms of our conversion rates, we were able to see immediate traction for the vendors who were actually using our platform, and then we were able to segment really based on targets between brands, medium tail vendors, and long tail vendors. So I think whenever you've taken initiative to build something and create value, I think that actually really, really does help. The final story is actually sitting in the audience. So Leah over here actually started off as an operator, and she's my HRBP right now for Jumia Food. And I think when she was given the HR role opportunity, which was I think about 2 years ago, it was very, very scary. But I think, she is still is a force to reckon when it comes to all the people who worked with her at our warehouse. And now I think she also runs assessment centers now and then. So I think, it's all about like never giving up and always being ready and excited about what you can do and how you can drive impact even bigger than what your current role is. I think that is essentially the secret sauce. Yeah.
So stepping up in the self-starter initiative.
Absolutely, absolutely. You have to chart your own path. And I think, given that we work in a very fast-paced environment, that's the only way you can differentiate yourself from the rest, right? Because sometimes it does seem like it's a survival of the fittest, unfortunately. So that's the only way you can go about it sometimes.
Out of curiosity, does anyone on the panel have an example of someone who's created a role for themselves inside company? I don't know. You do? Oh, wow. Can you share before we go to that one, perhaps? Yeah.
No, actually, we do have, it's a startup. For this is now, actually I have a few, but this one just the company that I work for.
Yeah.
I have someone who, her role was a commercial lead, so basically interfacing with the big guys across the markets. And so she decided that she wanted to go into contracting, but not the traditional contracting, e-contracting.
Yeah.
Because most of the stuff we're doing, it's we're working with the global companies. So it's like, rather than us sending these huge documents and stuff like that, she could create what at that point she called an e-contract, which basically was almost like a template. But the one thing is that that e-contract was actually a compliance contract. we found out that it was actually more of a compliance contract than an e-contract.
Yeah.
So, because of course we are most of as a Google company, most of the systems and processes that we are using were Google.
Yeah.
We wanted also to align ourselves and become kind of a standalone, just identify ourselves with that.
Mm-hmm.
So she said, you know what, plus what I do,
Yes.
I'll do this and try it out, pilot it in this country, and if it works, then we can do it across the markets. And as we right now sit, I just had a meeting with my CEO, just to discuss that particular person. Said, this is because we presented it on our board, which was just recently, and the 4 investors said, you know what, this is actually what we need, because I have never sat down with my CEO in the same room. He's been there 1 year, and so I actually like 2 days, no, and I meet him every single day. So ours is more of that. So when you have a customer who is going to look at your contract, not just the normal visual, but the contract is actually talking to you, asking you the questions that you should have asked the person, but the contract is actually asking you, like something else not here, something that like a watch, you're typing and it's telling you ABCD. That's the contract that we have. And this is done by a young lady who is an engineer but in IT, and she just decided, you know what, this is what we do. Why do we have Google House, Google Homes? Why don't we have a contract that talks to me? So telling you the contract is talking. So yes, so that is one of the jobs that we actually, I said, okay, let me do a JD, and we give this person, this is the role that she's going to take on as our champion for e-contracting.
Yeah, because you've gotten a value-add project
Yeah.
now. So I mean, I think the key learning point is that it's just not about you fitting into that role, but it's also creating a role for yourself to grow. I mean, I don't know what's going to be the trajectory for this particular employee, but I can tell where promotion was as sweet.
It's actually, she's become a lead for the group.
Oh, this, I mean, look, so progression is just about also being very innovative in your role and looking outside what you can do. Right? So Jackson, anyone you recruited, and perhaps with a leaning on tech roles, if you don't have any specific examples in tech roles, anything is fine. But how have you seen them, you know, and those people that you're excited about, how have you seen them grow?
So
And what did they do? What aided? You know, like compressed into something very little. What aided them?
okay, so when it comes to mentoring
Yeah.
or guiding somebody onto their path, I've recruited a few recruiters as well as a few resources. So what mostly happens is you have to give them support, mentoring them, guiding them, sharing information with them so that they can also learn and know how to do it today. So for instance, I'll give you an example of a resourcer that I've recruited. So he came in when he was still fresh, had HR certification, but had not worked in recruitment before. So we came up with a plan on which was a 3-month, whereby I would take him through training. He'll be shadowing me on the job. So, and that way, it's I always prefer on-the-job training because you learn a lot. You're able to do the actual tasks, you know, and they make mistakes, and those mistakes are not there that you punish them, but they're there that you iron out. This is how it's done, of course, blending with how you do your systems, your processes, and all that. So, mentoring is a very has a very big impact in somebody's stepping up and growing through the ladders as well. So they were able, within 3 months, they were able also to start working on entry-level positions by themselves fully. So it took a lot of time teaching them the ropes, you know, guiding them through here and there. And eventually they grew to become a full recruiter. So I believe on-the-job training and mentoring are two key things when it comes to growing the talent that you have within yourself. The other key thing that I always say is consistency. So if you're consistent in what you do, how you do it, and you push yourselves to the limits each and every time if you're given something, go above and beyond. Not to impress me, but it's ideally for you so that you can even do it better with me, because you might know something and I can also learn from it. So always be consistent in what you do. You know, do things in a particular way. Of course, be flexible to adapt in different situations, but there needs to be that consistency. When I look at from the date you joined and let's say 3 months down the line, how has it been? So you need to be consistent, and I think it plays a very big impact in terms of how you grow your career and climb the ladder, being consistent. Because if you're not consistent, let's say, for example, you're in a sales role. This month, your target is, let's say, $500,000 a month that you're supposed to bring in. This month, you bring 200, next month you bring 50, next month you bring. So there must be something that you're doing that is not working for you. So be consistent. If you're told this is how you're supposed to do it, have an open mind, be just consistent in that. And you'll continue pushing yourself to limits, and you'll find that you actually get better and better as days go by.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
Liz.
Yes.
Same question, you know, like in 2 lines of it, career progression, and then I want you to do like a 1-3-5 with someone else. I hope someone will volunteer. Guys, get psyched up, right? Yeah, okay.
All right. So when I joined Just Work, I was not a recruiter, and I don't think I am a recruiter.
No, in your team.
All right, in my team. No. I'm going there. So where I started off in Just Work was in career development. So it is personal, individualized strategy for your own career path. All right, so I do have quite a number of clients that I've worked in terms of either changing from one industry to another, creating that conversation, moving, increasing salaries. We've gotten up to about 70% salary increase for some people. We have gotten new jobs within 6 weeks for people. So I have done a lot of career strategy for individuals. And people need to take my experience in Kenya. A lot of people, you see, I like what you've done. You are in the UK, you are in HR, then you got this degree. I will copy that exact path, right? Does it suit me? Does it make sense to me? But I'm competing by looking at other people's resumes and beginning to create my path based on somebody else's experience, right? But then if we went back, let's correct that, yeah? Let's correct our society. Let's go back. What do you actually like doing? Do you actually like who you do it for? And if they removed you from there, what is missing? What is your value? What do you actually care about? Now, I did a lot of career development for individuals. So you want to see somebody who progressed? Yes. So let me use the one we have this week here. Somebody who immediately left campus, did their law degree. After doing their law degree, got their KSL certification, immediately went for the executive MBA degree, and now is an executive at the age of 27 with 0 work experience, all right? So she says, I want to be an environmentalist last week. Then last week, Batuan, she was a contract manager. And then this week, it was Red Cross. She had to work for the Red Cross. Then she needed to work for MasterCard. We needed to move her to Ireland. You see, when you're not sure of who you are as a product, you keep doing things in competition to people and never truly developing your skill. And that, I hope you're not watching. And not developing, and not developing what it is that you truly ought to be doing. You need to remove that aspect of what everyone else tells you to do and what do you actually enjoy doing, yeah? You only have one life. You don't need to be miserable throughout it all. So we can help look at you, look at happiness, look at direction, and actually pick the things that matter to you. And what most people don't know is this, yeah? As much as you need a job so badly, do you know organizations need you as much? Do you know that? Do you know that? Because when you're not there, what's your job? You're a personal assistant. And you're thinking, I'm just a PA, right? But what happens when you're not there? No. Okay, no. Just imagine, yeah? If somebody in their head just said, just a PA, imagine what happens when this lady is not there to the person she manages. Are they able to meet their calendar? If they miss the meetings, do they bring in money? Is there a value of money attached to her role? There is then a value to you as a person, as a hire. So we might, I don't know, I've seen people progress by first understanding your value and what you do, and then strategizing around that in creating your career path. And I've seen that's how my development for people is. It's a bit different, but it's the same.
Just a thought on. I think I like what he said about the notion that us millennials have is a get-rich-quick scheme, and the entrepreneurship in itself is somewhat overrated at some point, and it makes you feel like once I get to my own thing, I can get rich tomorrow. One thing I would like to emphasize, like he said, is that the day you will do your side hustle and like he said that you will always think about how much money you can make in your side hustle. The only thing that will give you peace when doing your side hustle is doing your best at your job. That is the only thing that will give you peace. And that is why I can confidently talk about it right here, because I know that the value I have learned that I am giving the company I work for is immense. And I need them as much as I need that job they give me, because if I don't have that job, I wouldn't have the energy to do all I'm doing, on the side. So one thing you have to be sure is that you have to make sure that you give what you ought to give to your employer, because you need them. You need them to be able to run and your errands on the side, and make sure that you do your best in whatever that you do. And just as an example of what you are saying, initiative done internally, what I did 2 years ago, I was in December, the company runs on skeleton staff. So I was left in charge for a workshop for a week, manufacturing workshop. That's in 2 years ago. And I realized that things was a bit manual, and some clients came for their equipment, and I couldn't find the paperwork. I spent a whole day trying to find out where this paperwork could have gone, and that gave me a lot of frustration. The client didn't pick up the equipment, and it came back on me 2 weeks later. And so I decided I would make a system that enables the entire manufacturing process digitized, and in the process making documentation for production. Right now, that system has a name. We have 5 manufacturing departments, and I started off in only one. It had no name. It was just digital, whatever, something. Now it has a name called Quality Control System, and it's something that is used in manufacturing as a larger department. In next year, it's going to be used in, how do you call it? It's like a performance assessment. Because right now the company is able to assess the performance of over 120 technicians in the entire company, just because of that one problem I wanted to solve while working in a department and was frustrated. So, and I think it's a very good example because it's something I did with all of my heart, and I wanted to make sure that the company is able to attach value to it. And you can imagine if the company had to buy that piece of software from elsewhere. Siemens, there's a manufacturing process software Siemens sells. I mean, it's very expensive, millions of money. And we have achieved it by a simple, like in 2 years, being able to monitor the workflow through the entire company. Yeah.
Go ye forth and take up initiative in your jobs, right? Company. 135. I want someone to volunteer. We can do like, you can just say what's your role right now, and perhaps Liz will tell you your next, your 3 or 5 steps. What perhaps would you need to do? And I know quite a couple of them, so my front someone if you actually don't. Yes, and
I think before Liz,
yeah.
Before Liz goes, I have a meeting at 8, so I want to beg to leave because I need to go to my car and actually log my meeting. So just wanted to know if there's any question for me to answer.
Sure.
My life doesn't stop, unfortunately.
Can't you manage your packages?
Any questions for me? Any comments for what I said?
Do you want a job?
No one wants to work for me.
No, everyone. This does
I'm gonna catch you when you're going out.
Now is your chance. Now is your chance.
No, you can't.
Be bold.
Ask something if it's something that you want to ask. Then
No, I wanted to take up on your offer to come and see how you guys are working.
Okay, cool.
And perhaps if you can actually, if there are more people like him who want to go and see how some of the things work in this company, we can actually do something with young Kenyans in there. Yeah. Right. Okay.
Oh, sorry, the lady.
Yeah. Okay. Then go ahead. Sorry, what's your name and?
I'm Regina.
Okay.
I have one question for you. So you say that I think to give a 10-minute to your employer, they can help for 2 years and after that, I'm gone. I also like that, but I like 2 years, just cutting 1,000 days. But how do you tell them, I'll be with you for this time, then go out without like feeling that they shouldn't invest fully in you? Because most employers want at least 5 years for them to truly develop whether you can decide okay, fine, that's done. But how do you know that in my mind I know I'm here for 3 years and I don't want to communicate it because they may say okay, but she was only here for 3 years.
No, I think for me that was very specific because I went in as a consultant and I said to them I needed to just, they said, I told them at least 2 years, because first it was a new government culturally and I needed to have just a step in, but also to help them. I looked at what they wanted to do and I said ideally 2 years would be good for me. But having said that, for sure nowadays, especially for the young ones, you guys, the millennials, there is never, the work environment is not for life anymore, okay? So you're always constantly moving, yeah? And I think, so you're constantly moving. What I would say to you, and it's the same thing I think the young gentleman there is saying, is that by the time you start thinking of when to leave, if it's 3 years that you've given yourself, like the 135, that in 3 years I want to be ABCD, ask yourself at that the third year when it comes, have you achieved it? So if it's for you is a jump in and step out in the same kind of position, unfortunately you're wasting your time, because as a recruiter I'll be looking at your CV and I would say this is a high flyer, not in a good way but in a bad way, because you're not settled. You understand? So you're here as a engineer IP, you go to the next level, you've done 3 years, you've done jumped ship and you go and do exactly the same thing. For me, that one doesn't look as an attractive CV. If you are in an organization and you say, I give myself 3 years in as a Mr. Sakwa, then if something else pops up, I'll give another 2. Yeah, that is very good on your CV. Say 3 years, I've done ABCD. 3 years, 2 years, I've given it, another, this different level. It looks good on your CV. So be careful when you're giving yourself time in a role, because it looks bad on your CV. 3 years, 4 years, yes. But still, don't jump ship like this.
You said that you're able to have a very steep learning curve. You can learn a different from within a very big time of doing it. My question is, like she said, what if your JD completely changes? You know, what has changed will not grow you as an individual. So you came here to work in this and this and this, but now it has really changed. The approach has changed. It's not value adding. So how do you say no without saying no? And
Okay, I think what...
to like you line
Yeah.
that you know that this is what I want to add value in this organization.
Okay, I think one of the questions that, if Elizabeth said is that whenever you sit in whether you're a PA, ask yourself what value you as a person you're giving to yourself, but also to the organization. I share an executive assistant, and unfortunately she sits here in Nairobi, but I share it with the other executives who sit across the world. And I said, she told me one day, she's like, oh, I want to be an HR person. I was like, why? She's like, you seem to have a lot of influx of people in your office. I was like, my dear, I wish you knew what I was talking about. But, so I said, do you like to work with people? She's like, what kind of things do you talk about? I said, so one of the things I said, how many times you and I have sat and talked about things that are not actually your work? When you came to me and told me, hey, this and all that and all that, I said to her, that is exactly what I do sometimes, just listening to people's issues and carry them and zip, because I can't talk about them to anyone. And I said to her, do you really like to do that? She's like, okay, give me a day. Then she came back to the next day. She's like, Philip, I thought about it. I don't want to be an HR person. So in a way, I think it's just always ask yourself, what do you really like to do? You understand? What do you enjoy? I like to see all the tech guys here, because tech is something that grows very, very quickly. I'm not an engineer. I'm a psychologist. I thought one time my mom and my dad wanted me to be a doctor, but I hated chemistry. I liked biology because I could see things growing, but hated, chemistry. And I ended up being in a very different aspect of life. I enjoy actually talking to people, which is weird because people are terrible. When you hear people's issues, to be honest with you, I wake up and I'm like, oh, goodness me, that was fun, isn't it? But it is something that I can't tell you. You understand? So ask people, that is why it ticks us. If I don't get a complaint, I solve an issue here and I do this, I'm so bored. Yeah? So I enjoy what I do. Yeah? So the other part of change might role, but I've overall, what my sister is saying, like what you do, then you can excel it. Quickly.
Thank you for the time here. My name is Dwayne. My question is, as Philip, probably by my estimate, you're probably mid-40s, thereabout.
I'm 48.
Thereabout.
I don't.
Moving from an industry that was service-based and now you're more in the tech space, how did you stay relevant, or how did you ensure that you're always
It's-
more maybe personal question.
Mm.
We have to take.
No, it's a constant battle in terms of learning, self-learning. It's very important to keep up with the trend, you know, because not only do I can dress like any of you, but also I can talk the tech language, you know. So, like my sister probably will tell you, if you sit in the C-suite and you don't know the lingo, you feel left out. And no one is actually going to tell you what it is. So the onus is on me to ensure that I am kept abreast with what is this? What does it mean? If you ask me what is 4G, how does it work today? I'm not a tech, but I would even build you how it looks like, what happens here and there. Is because I've taken time to learn that. And when I'm talking to you as a young person, I don't want you to challenge me and say, but Mr. Sakwa, this is how it does. No, I'll tell you, no, you know what? If you lay that fiber and you put so many pots, this is how we'll get it. And I'll tell you that the guys will look at me and say, oh, so which engineering thing did you do? I said, I've never been to an engineering lesson. Yeah? So just making sure that you keep yourself informed. And it's also very important to you guys as well, because you might go in with a first class or whatever, but the minute you land, it is irrelevant at that point in time. You have to keep you up to the speed. Yeah?
So is that what you call aptitude to?
I don't know, because sometimes I don't like to learn. But I think it's the interest and also to stay relevant. You know, you have to stay relevant wherever you're seated. I've worked in banking, and I challenge people in my RM, when she calls me, she's like, Mr. Sakwa ABCD. And I'm like, you know, you bankers. And she's like, I know you're a banker as well, because I know exactly what she's going to tell me with regards to ABCD. You know, so now I'm working with the tech, I will know. I worked with fiber before I was in telecom, yeah? Nokia, Ericsson. I know the lingo, yeah? And I'm relevant. So we call ourselves that we can fit anywhere as HR people, but you can't just fit. You have to understand what the jargon is.
All right, so we'll allow you. Thank you so much.
Any other? So,
Or was there a last issue? You have time for one? Okay, good.
So I'll leave here just one card.
Yes, we can
You
take a
can
photo
use
of
it.
Yes.
You can photo it, but please don't call me after midnight. I have a family.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I love talking to people like you guys, because I can share where I've come from and where I probably going to end up. And I do this on the side. I'm not paid. I do volunteer in terms of career management, career development and coaching.
Okay.
I have I talk to young guys, not just in tech, but people who are not. They don't know what to do.
Okay,
So I talk to them.
So anyone here interested can come through that channel. Yeah, all right. Thank you so much for coming. And my colleague will see you off. Thank you. So I want us to wrap up as well here, and then we can take a couple of questions that you guys have. And I asked that someone can volunteer for the 135. Liz, are you up to do it? Like, you know, just say 135.
We'll discuss my fee after.
Okay, yeah, she will send you an invoice. 135. I mean, I said I know a couple of them, so I'm going to ask someone to. I'm going to front someone if they actually don't volunteer. Lorna. Hi. Oh, so I don't know. Did you catch the 135 thing that was going on? The framework for 1 year is entry level, 3 years mid-career, 5 years, and what you need at each of these places too. You did? So what stage are you at? Yep.
Okay, so I'm saying I'm clocking 2 years. My trainees, the management trainee is 2 years, graduate trainee. So I'm finishing it in a month's time.
What organization are you with?
At PZ Carsons. It's a fast-moving consumer goods firm.
All right. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
So everyone in the room will need to make a Nothing. All right. We're going to do this together.
Okay.
It's a weird thing. Okay, have a seat. All right. All right. So when people usually do the breathing exercise, you breathe in, then you breathe out, right? I prefer you breathe out. Exhale everything, any energy in your body, completely out, and then breathe in. And when you're done breathing in, then you close your eyes.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Breathe out. All of it. All of it. All of it. All right? Then now breathe in and close your eyes. All right. You've just come from work. All right? I want you to open the door to an apartment. This is your dream apartment. All right? You've made it in life, yeah? You're happy, you've had a good day at work, right? I want you to walk to your fridge. I want you to grab a cold drink from your fridge. I want you to drink. I want you to drink from it. All right? I want you to walk into your living room. I want you to say hi to your kids. I want you to say hi to the husband. I then want you to walk into your room. I want you to open your closet. I want to see how many clothes you have in there and how many different incredible styles are in there. All right? I want you to go and look outside the window of your bedroom, from your apartment, from your house. Are you seeing how much you've done as a person? Are you seeing how hard you've worked as a person? Are you happy?
Yeah.
Good stuff. Open your eyes. All right. Now you know the value of your time. Now you know what you're working towards, right?
Yeah.
Good stuff. A year from today, how old are you?
25.
25. What is your title?
Currently,
What is your title a year from today? What is your ideal title?
brand manager.
Brand manager. A year from today, how much do you make?
250.
You make 250,000. All right? A year from today, who are you leading? You can see your team?
Yes.
You can see what you're doing? You can see who you work for? Can you see why you're valuable in that company?
Yeah.
All right. 3 years from today. All right? Can you see who you work for?
Yeah.
Can you see who works for you?
Yeah.
How much are you making 3 years from today?
550.
You're making 550,000. All right? Good. What are you studying 3 years from today?
I'm doing my master's.
You're doing your master's. You're doing your master's in what?
Marketing and digital.
Which country are you doing your master's in?
Singapore.
You're doing your master's in Singapore. 5 years from today. Can you see your title?
Yes.
Can you see your team?
Yes.
Can you see your company?
Yes.
Can you see your first child? You can see your house? How much are you making 5 years from today?
700.
All right. You can then now pick all the companies you need to work for that fit into that life. True or false?
True.
That's the 135.
So we'll take a round of burning questions now because I'm getting an alert by my colleague that we are out of time. So, and then we can have Workstyle representative and Esther, and then we wrap it up for the mingling session for those who want to stay. So, how many questions do I give Elsie? 3 or how many? Okay, guys. All right. Where do we start? I'm going to stand now. I've been sat for so long. Your name and then your question, and we have directed.
Yes. My name is Mesongo Sibuti. I'm a co-founder at Mesozi.
Yes,
We are a technology company. I will start with a complaint before I ask a question. I feel that I feel that the entrepreneurs in the room were kind of left out of the session in the sense that I haven't really had much touching around, as an entrepreneur. I don't even know what career development, as an entrepreneur, you're normally switching roles, basically. So I think one thing that touched on that was, the lateral growth. But what I wanted to understand more is how do I attract, the talented people that that have already done their 1, 3, 5, and retain them over whether it's the 3 or 5, and show them lateral growth in a company where sometimes you have as a startup you normally focused, so you don't have that much lateral growth. You get? So yeah, how do you get to retain these very ambitious young people that are looking for lateral growth that you currently don't have? Yeah.
And on top of that, with a salary of 250
Exactly.
Okay. So, do we take that first, or do we take another question? Anyone with another question, then we can have let's take 3, then have the panelists respond. Here you go. And then we can come back for something.
Mayo, this thing is falling. Okay. Hello. Hi. My name is Marianne, and I've worked in one company for. It's supposed to be like that. Oh, okay. So I've worked in my current company for 3 years now, and last year my manager went on maternity leave, and being the youngest in our team, I had the opportunity to cover her. Over the time covering her for 6 months, I got to really enjoy her job. And when she came back, I didn't want my job, and I didn't want her job, and I didn't want my team. Because they were it's not a cohesive team, and I ended up doing everyone's job at that time. So it's been 4 months after she's come back, and I've had several offers, and I discussed it with my manager. Aki, by the way, you have to cut this video, bro. Okay. Anyway. So I've had the opportunity of discussing this with my manager, and I always come back with a counter offer and a counter offer and a counter offer. Because I'm human, I stay. But now I've had a role that's junior, and I want to go for it. But my manager decided to slow down the process. What do you do in this case that you don't want a counter offer, you just want to go? And the challenge is that the role is internal. What do you do in that case? Yeah. Is that another question? Oh.
Okay. We have to start. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Kennedy, project manager at Centum. So I have 2 questions. We are currently living in very tough economic times. Companies are downsizing. Guys are being laid off. So from a HR perspective, I don't know, how do you politely fire, or rather get rid of people who are working well, but because of the constraints of the current economy, your P&L cannot hold, your cash flows cannot hold. So how do you manage that situation? Because, okay, I'm an engineer, mine is just work. As in, you give your guys work, it's clear, they go and do it. But now from a HR perspective, you've got to deal with people. It's not like, okay, you guys, half of you guys, you're going home and half of you guys are remaining. So how do you handle that? Then secondly, in a real working environment, there's what is stereotyped as company politics, corporate politics. So on the same context, from a HR perspective, how do you see this from guys, and how do you respond to it? Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to come back to the panel. Where do I start? Where do I start? Do you want to start? Okay. So should we start there?
Okay. All right. Maybe I can try and make Sibuti a bit comfortable by talking something about entrepreneurship. And he said that he wanted to know how you were able to give someone like enable someone understand the lateral growth rather than the upward growth. Is that it? Is that what you wanted to know? Yeah. Okay.
Attract that talent.
Attract that talent.
Any,
Yes. Yeah. One time I asked my CEO, it's called Mr. David Gatende. A friend of mine is in Tanzania, and he told me he has a problem. Every time he posts out a job offer, guys come, but some of them don't even come with their CVs. And then when they ask what their CVs, they never come back. So I asked my CEO, because we have a branch in Tanzania, and how do you manage to attract top talent who are able to work with the company for too long? And this is what he told me. I'll just read a section of it. I'll read this because it's something that can work for some, but sometimes it may not work. It says that, I would suggest that your friend approaches the online agencies that do not charge companies who want applicants with particular skills. You will find that such agencies vet candidates and CVs as a basic requirement. But even if he has to pay a small amount, it might be worth it. This will work for a mid-level company. But if you are just starting up, maybe 2 to 3 years or 5 years in entrepreneurship, it might be hard. And I can tell you, it's hard to convince a millennial who you're going to be looking for that you can have that lateral growth, and you can getting the right person is not very hard, very difficult. It's not very easy. So as a small company, you have to do a lot of experiments. And what I would suggest is that try people out. Your recruitment process has to have a section of it that tests, like has your vision your vision has to be a litmus test on that day. When you talk to them, try to understand if their life coincides or corresponds to the vision of your company. As the owner of the company, or as an executive, or as a co-founder of the company, you have to understand, you have to get someone who can be able to align to your vision. And not only, that's what I was telling you, when I'm looking for employees, I don't look for I may look for experience depending on what I want, but I'm looking for just one thing that convinces me enough that I can work with this guy. This may be how he articulates himself. This may be what he's done before. This may be his volunteering experience. It might be anything. As long as you can be able to identify that one thing that coincides with your vision, you can be able to pick up on that guy. But I understand you must be able to do experiments. Sometimes you can't know how good someone is just by interviewing them. You have to give them a shot. Let them work for you, even if it's for 3 months, and understand them. Remember, the internships are meant for both ways. I understand how good you are, and you as an employee understand if I am the person you want to work for long term. So your employee has to also understand whether they want to work for you or not. And also, when they are in already, when you are testing them, you need to make them understand where you want to go. Many people shy away from letting their employees know where they want to go in the next 5 years. If you tell someone the amount of revenue you want for the company in the next 10 years, they'll be like, I want to be part of that company. I want to be here when that happens. So you need to be able to tell them your vision as a person, as the owner of the business, and they have to get it from you, because you hold the keys to them having that job. The day you say, I'm closing down this company, they won't have a job. So you have to be able to communicate to them your vision and always test if they understand it and if they want to be part of it. At some point, you may have to lay off some people, or they can't go. One thing as an entrepreneur, what you should maybe not do is, when a person wants to leave your company, don't be so worried. One thing I always say is that if someone leaves my company, I don't want them to leave and go to a lesser job. I don't want them to leave and go to another job. I want them to leave and go and employ many other people like I'm doing, because that is the problem we have as young people. We have so many skills, we have so many people out there, but they don't have jobs. So if you are leaving my company, I want to build you to a point where when you leave, you go and employ others. Once they understand that, once they understand your objective, you can be able to assure them that the growth they're having might not be vertical, but they'll grow themselves. And lastly, every person works for a company. I like what is called, Philip said, companies want to milk you until you're dry. But as a small company, you get the opportunity to tell your employees, or to remind them that beyond working for you, they're working for themselves. Once I understand that I'm working for myself, like what I'm doing at Brainverse, what I'm doing at whichever company I'm working, I'm building myself. Let them understand that and be very concerned about their personal development. If an employee wants to learn a new skill, encourage them. Ask them where they are. Ask them whether they tried. You know, where at which stage they are. If you can, get somebody else for somewhere who is so skilled in that and let them empower that person. Because when they're empowered to work for you and for themselves. So that way you can be able to have the confidence and like make them really work for you with confidence, knowing that it's not just about the business, it's about me as well. Yeah.
Right. Go to Phoebe and then I can go to Liz quickly, then we can.
Which question do you think I should tackle?
I think you need to tackle Marianne's question. How do you, get the process sped up? You want a role internally, a junior role, but you feel all of a sudden that your manager is delayed in the process.
Okay. So I can't see Marianne actually.
She's there. She sank back into that chair.
Okay. All right. Okay. So essentially, what you're saying is, in terms of the job title, this role is relatively junior. Is that what you were saying compared to what you're currently doing? Yeah. But do you think the value proposition in that role is essentially the learning that you're gonna get? What is the value proposition in moving to that role? I understand that the team environment right now is not very cohesive, but what's in it for you to move to the junior role right now?
Okay, one is transferable skills for me.
Mm-hmm.
Two is this role has a clear path roadmap. In my current role, I can only grow to my manager's role. In this role, in the junior role, I can grow to somebody else's role that's not.
So your growth, your career path will actually be faster, yeah, and there's more growth opportunity. And I'm assuming your current role is not in HR. Okay, good for you. With HR. Around this, because essentially more often than not, when you are doing an internal transfer, the way to get released into a new role, which is internal, would require current line manager's sign off, unfortunately. And I think you do have to sit down and explain to her what's in it for you in terms of moving into the other role. And I think I would pitch possibly differently. I would also talk about what's in it for you from a learning perspective and a growth perspective outside of career progression. Simply because I guess there's possibly a lot more that you'll be learning in the new role. And I guess what could also possibly reassure her is that, in the event there is an opportunity or there is a revised org design in your current role that you're doing, there's always a possibility that you'd even come back, but then holding you back from your learning and your growth is not necessarily going to set her up for success or for yourself. But I guess, for me, it's all about how you frame your conversation with your manager, because I don't necessarily agree with the counter offer approach, because you're only looking at the extrinsic factor, right? There's also the intrinsic factors that are actually impeding you from optimizing your potential. So I think, I'm happy to chat with you after this in terms of how you'd want to frame this conversation, if it helps. Yeah.
Jackson, now you back.
Okay, good. Fantastic. I really want to answer the first gentleman who asked about how to attract and retain talent, right? That was your question. So first and foremost, you have to look at things like culture. What is your culture of your organization? Because culture really plays a big part in attracting people to come to work for your company. That's number one. Number two, when it comes to retaining them, So there are a lot of things, because I believe money is not the only motivation that can keep employees in company, right? So you're looking at things like good working environment, what other freebies or benefits are you getting? Like, for example, does the company support you in advancing your education, like paying maybe half of it as well? That would make somebody remain. Offering allowances, like for example, flexible working hours. So there are a lot of things that are working in work-life balance practices that companies can take on, for example, like yourself, so that you can retain the talent that you have. Okay, good. Now on the second question to Marianne, the moment, what was the reason, if I can ask you, what was the reason that you started interviewing elsewhere?
Initially, I thought after doing my manager's role, I was ready for something bigger.
Okay.
That was the initial
Okay.
thought. Later on, it was just to get away.
Okay, okay, good. You did mention that the environment is not so conducive somehow. So have offers outside. The thing which is tricky about counter offers, and I go through this with candidates when in the process of moving them from one organization to another, is they'll of course get a counter offer. But you have to remember, there's a reason as to why you wanted to leave, first and foremost. And by them offering a counter offer only tells them that they didn't value you at all. Okay, so in layman's language, I'm looking at it from that point of perspective, because you might take that counter offer and 3 months down the line, you're fired because you wanted to leave. Okay, so there are other things like addressing the issues, and you have to approach it in a very strategic way. So if you have that relationship with your HR or your manager, you get a little bit of advice from them before even going and saying, I'm going to look at this counter offer. If you already made up your mind you want to leave, go ahead, please. Because I've seen people who've taken counter offers and they come back regretting so much as to why they even considered them or took them. So just leave, because if you're in the kind of environment whereby you're feeling like there's a lot of pressure, the environment is not very good, it's not even geared towards what you're looking for this instance, there's no growth environment, I would actually encourage you, leave. Okay? Because there's a reason as to why you've been taking other interviews. There's a reason why you've been looking outside. If you don't have your 2 feet inside, just leave. Okay? Then, Kennedy, the question that I got were two: how do you politely let people go? Okay, so one thing I'll tell you about JustWork, for example, right now we have an outplacement program, which is mainly handles redundancies for companies. So you can engage with companies like ours, such in terms of, because we are experts in that, and we can come in and know and teach you how to talk to staff and how to handle them their exit in a very polite way. Because like I said, constraints such as you're not able to manage in terms of payroll, the economy is doing really bad, you're not getting projects. So there are various reasons as to why a company would let people go. But how you approach it really matters, because like for instance, if you tell these employees and you go to the HR and say, can we have a budget for the people that are leaving? What can we give them as an exit package that can really benefit in terms of where do they take their career next? Okay, then also the people who will stay as well will have a certain mindset, because they'll be like, we're next to go. So how do you handle that as well? So counseling as well plays a big role in terms of managing that. So throughout this year, like you've seen, a lot of companies have been letting people go, and I can say proudly, JustWork has been a lot to manage a lot of these. We've come in, and it's very encouraging what we're doing, even from a HR point of view. Then company politics, how do you handle this and respond to them? So first and foremost, I think from how I manage my staff where I am, is I never encourage company politics. If you have an issue, come straight to me, talk to me, feel free. I always have relationship with each and every person, even my MD as well, because she'll come with me, she has an issue, she'll feel comfortable telling me, being the HR, so that I can know how to manage it and talk to that person. No gossiping, please just keep it straight and forward. And I believe supporting each other, teamwork really matters a lot. So I wouldn't want to encourage company politics, and this normally happens in big organizations. But if you're in a team that is quite, you guys depend on each other to work, just be straightforward with it, and tell the people that they should feel free to come to you whenever they have problems that you can solve. If you're not getting along with one person because of ABCD issues, bring them to me. I'll address them to you. So having a proper HR that is able to manage people very effectively is a good way of, having those no politics in the office. I hope I've answered everyone. Good.
But that bit of the company politics, I think it's everywhere, to be honest. It's just, it varies with different companies, and it's different to each company you go to.
True.
It's definitely actually related to each company politics everywhere you go to. I think it's about being focused on what brought you to that role.
Good.
Just staying focused on that role, and you don't have to pretend for people to like you. No, you just do your job. And I think all will be well. I think when I get more insights, I can share. Because company politics are everywhere. You can never skip it. Ever.
I agree with that, and I agree with so, I agree with what you're saying. But another key thing that you should always look at, and I think Tuvakar agree, it's the culture of the organization. How is the culture there? If you form a culture whereby you allow this to start, it will always be there. I'm sure, yes, we cannot avoid it, but one way of having team building exercises is to increase, teamwork within the groups, people to learn each other, knows what are the do's, what are the don'ts, so things like those. And I mean, you can really try different methodologies to minimize it. I'm not saying it's not going to be there, but I always feel the approach of having an open door policy to your staff that you're managing is really helpful a lot, and just be straight from the word go. Yeah. Thank you.
Actually, I think I agree with you. Company politics is indeed everywhere, but I think what you need to understand is company politics is actually the tip of the iceberg. And I think whenever you see someone who you feel is being political, I think it's always good to understand why they are doing that. Because more often than not, it's accumulation of their own insecurities. It's sort of the flip side of the survival of the fittest, right? Because there is someone out there that is making them question their own capabilities. And that's why they feel that, okay, I need to make myself heard, and as a result I need to possibly step on someone else in order to survive. Is that right? From an ethics and morals perspective, absolutely not, but is it a reality? It is. So I think sometimes having some form of compassion for people who tend to be political, it's very difficult to do, and it comes with a lot of emotional intelligence. But just try to understand, what it must be to walk in their shoes, and the reasons behind why they're doing what they're doing, right? Because possibly they're really, really scared that the other person would get the promotion and they have an ailing father at home, or a sick child, or maybe 3-4 children that they have to support, and they're a single parent perhaps. And that is why all the more reason that they have to fight for their so-called rights at the office, right? It's always a story behind that. So I think, developing your own EI, or your EQ as they call it, is actually very, very important. Just because, what you see is not necessarily what meets the eye is not necessarily what's going on. And I think, the other thing is, I think by nature, and I think because I come from South Asia, right? And I think East Africa is not drastically different, which is why I like it here very much. Is because, we're very relationship based, right? And especially when we are very relationship centric, it's very trust centric as well. And sometimes when we work in organizations and we see that instead of valuing relationships, people value transactions, that is essentially where one of the biggest disconnect happens, because then you see your relationship has been used as a stepping stone for a transaction. So I think that is why, sometimes really understanding, building, hyper self-awareness, not just of yourself, but of the teams around you. And I think good companies really invest in, helping people understand what communication styles work how communication styles work and how one person's communication style can clash with another, and essentially sort of understanding what each other's purpose is, right? Today we were having a very interesting discussion in the organization where we were talking about the meaning behind work. And I mean, yes, I might be at Jumia because I'm really excited to, like, you know, build something for the continent. But maybe Leah is different. Maybe Leah just wants to make sure that, you know, this is a stepping stone for her to do her master's, which is fine. But then essentially, if we don't share common purpose in terms of why we are here, then it's going to become difficult. So that is why just like moving beyond like the surface and trying to understand what is like, you know, beneath it is very, very important, because you're able to navigate the politics better that way. Yeah?
Okay, so I'm afraid we'll have to get to Liz now. Oh, sorry.
Oh, good. Sorry.
Yeah, then we'll take the discussion after this. So we are about 40 minutes behind, going by Brian's watch. Right? So, Liz, final thoughts.
So just to reiterate, I'm going to start from Kennedy. Kennedy, I'd love to have a meeting with your HR manager, and I've been trying to get to you guys for a while. Outplacement redundancy. No. You see, there is a component to it. When you're letting go of people, are you letting go of 50-year-olds? Those are people who are going into consultancy and businesses, right? But when you're letting go of somebody who's 30-year-old, you have to remember, this is like somebody, you're firing somebody, you're telling somebody you're not good enough. You're pulling the rug under them, yeah? There is a pain there. That is an absolute pain. There's a lack of dignity, there's embarrassment. But you have to give somebody hope. And I like to come from abundance, yeah? I don't like when you say that the economy is too shit. We've gone up to economic skills, yeah? Kenya's average age is 19. We have an 87% mobile penetration. Maybe there's a shift in industry, and some people whose skills don't match up are being let go. So you need to upskill, yeah? But that does not mean that I don't think we're failing and the economy is bad. I think it's the same everywhere. Every time you travel, I think there's success in New York, but there's still people who sleep on the streets. I think, yeah, come from abundance, yeah? But the outplacement and redundancy program gives dignity back to workers who've been let go. We've done a lot of these for a lot of, please visit our website. And people always come into class feeling like, oh my God, they've only given me 6 months. But when they leave, it's like, I have a career direction, I have a new goal, I know where I'm going. And that's a better place to come from, even when you're being let go. Because at 35, do you believe that this is the last time you will ever work again in your life? Do you think that this is the best boss that you will ever have? Did you actually like being at this company? Yeah? So we need to come from abundance, and there's a way to manage teams that are going through redundancy, reduction, downsizing, yeah? Corporate policy, I find that it has to be emotional, it has to be inside. That's why we work from inside coming out. When you work, knowing your vision. And I love that. If you have a vision, and then you write that vision down, no matter, you will not tarry, you will not fade from where it is exactly you're going from. Leave the job, you don't belong there. And then, no, yeah. And then the other thing, and I think I have said this, I've said this multiple times. You are not your title, you are not your paper, you are your skill sets that are transferable to whatever. It can be banking, it can be whatever. But you are your skill sets, you are what you do. When you look at the new job description, look at the meat, not the bone, yeah? Look at what is it that I get to do? What am I excited about doing? Stop doing things because somebody told, leave. How do you attract talent when you're a startup? You have to remove the juakaliness out of your startup. You need to create predictability. You need to have systems in place. I have a dream and I have a vision for myself and I know where I'm going. Don't put me in a juakali unpredictable system. You creating a business doesn't mean you don't know about the structures around a business. Yeah? When you have that, then you can keep top talent. Then you can attract top talent. There are many, many successful businesses that are able to attract and keep those people at that price point. But for you to be able to grow that type of business, you have to be sure and you have to be not juakali structured. And you have to have a vision and where you're going, yeah? Don't put me in part of something that even you yourself, you know. All right. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. So I don't know, do I invite Claudia? Claudia, where are you? Yes, come. She's from Workstyle and they are the hosts for our space. And so she's going to say a word. But Claudia, before you say a word, can I just give Leah 30 seconds to say something about career progression? Do you want to say something? 30 seconds. Because you are here and then you're from Jumia. 30 seconds. Claudia, just stand by. 30 seconds. Growing your career.
Okay. Hi. How are you? Okay. So according to me, what I think about career progression is you have to be determined. Determination counts. You have to be yearning to learn all the time. That is one thing that has to be looked at all time. Most of the managers look at people who are flexible, people who are willing to sacrifice. So if you have all these three main aspects, I think career progression is really easy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much. They are our partners for the event. Claudia, come on.
Hi everyone. My name is Claudia Cherono. I'm the community manager here at Workstyle. So this is a co-working space. This is our lounge area. Can I just sell the space for 1 second? So we have packages from as low as 3,000, depending on how many people you are. So talk to me, I'll tell you more. If you're clients with us, we give you this space to have your events for free. Yeah, so just talk to me, I'll be at the reception. And thank you for coming.
So guys, bring on your events. Next one. When you leave your dog, your event, first one. Are we getting 1 month free? Yeah. Okay, all right, amazing. So we have our co-founder for the program online. Esther, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can everyone hear me?
Can you guys hear her? So I don't know what happened to the projector, but go ahead, Esther.
Hi, everyone. How are you feeling?
Super excited, I think.
Have we learned a lot? Are we feeling, yes, this is worth it? I need some energy.
Yeah.
So to kick it off, I think it might be useful if I, simply introduce myself. So my name is Esther Mukia. We co-founded Young Kenyans in Technology with Elsie in April, and we're really proud of how it's grown. This is our 5th event, if I'm not wrong. It's been a great journey. We've now been joined with Lawrence, who's done such a good job. Can we just give him a clap?
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
You've done a really great job, and he runs our mentorship program alongside Tess. Tess, please also let's clap for Tess. She has been busy. This girl has been busy getting you the food that you're going to enjoy shortly. So
they've done.
Yes.
It's done, but it's done.
Yes, so Tess and Lawrence run our mentorship program, and they collaborate closely with Elsie and I with organizing the event. Is Asen there today?
Asen Akilimali? Oh no, he's not made it. Sorry.
Oh, okay. And our intern, is our intern there? Maria. I think I saw her at the back.
She's at the back, yeah.
Yeah, so also Maria has joined us as an intern to help with the program management on the mentorship. So I'd like to start by thanking the panelists, Jackson and Elizabeth from Just Work. Philip left, right?
Yes, but
we'll still thank him. Brian from Brainbus and the Baraka from Jumia. Honestly, thank you so much. I was tuned in on the live the entire time, and I've learned so much. I was even freaking out. How have I been surviving in the corporate world for 5 years and I didn't know all this? So thank you so much for sacrificing your time. First of all, it was raining. You're definitely busy people, but you've created time to come see us. So we are really, really grateful for that. Guys, let's give them a round of applause. Yes, I've already touched a bit on our organizing committee, but just to specifically thank the individual for today's event. Thank you, Elsie, for organizing the venue. It's lovely, isn't it lovely?
Yeah.
Right?
Outside,
Thank you so much, Elsie. And even organizing, collecting the payments. You have such a busy job. You always have to go see clients here and there. But and you get home, you're tired. But every day you would share with us who has paid. So everybody gets to know. Okay, at least my payment has been recorded. We don't take that for granted. Thank you so much, and mostly for inviting us to your space. Tess has been responsible for designing the posters. And those posters nice. So they look nice. Yeah, very techy. That's Tess, right? And she's done a fantastic job as well, like managing the panelists, requesting for pictures, timing, just organizing the whole panelist process. So thank you so much. And of course, the food, which let's not forget, a very crucial part. Thank you, Lawrence, for moderating. Arsen for from June. And guys, this live stream, I would it for those who are not in Kenya, for those who are home. Thank you, Moses. Moses has been an incredible partner for young Kenyans in technology. All the videos that you see on YouTube is Moses. He does such a quality job, always delivers. He's such an incredible person to work with. Personally, he's a person I recommend to all my clients who are interested in YouTube videos. So Moses, asante sana. Without you, I would not have been able to learn. So particularly very grateful. Yes, so thank you. And of course, our dear attendees, asanteni sana kwa kukuja. It's Friday evening. You guys could have decided, see me, I don't know, Milan, or I don't know, Jay's, or whatever it is that people do on Friday evenings. But you've created time to attend this event. It cannot happen without you guys. So asanteni sana kukuja. Yes, so what about the next event? So we have 2 events coming up. We would be planning the end of year party. We are young, lazima tujibambe at least kidogo kidogo. So we'll share the details of those soon. And in terms of our first event for 2020, we have a lady from Google, a lady from Facebook, a lady from Oxfam International. A senior person in Safaricom is yet to confirm with me, and we're also following up with other big tech companies. So basically, we want to have an event on how to be successful as a woman in technology and how men can be allies. So even though the event is for men, for women, please, men, you're invited, because we need to understand how do we be each other's allies. So this is an event most likely to happen on January 10th, but we will confirm the details. And also we'll be planning another event for startups. Mesongo, we are here, we are listening. Yeah, we haven't forgotten the startups. So thank you so much, guys. Yeah, that's it from me.
All right. Okay, let's clap for Lester. And Safaricom sends their apologies. They were to have their senior talent manager here, but something came up at work. So next time, session B will happen.
Yeah. Asanteni.
Okay, so are you wrapping it up or? It's done. All right, guys, so that's it. Thank you so much for coming. Oh, let's take a photo, everyone here with the panelists. If there's a round of hot dogs or sodas remaining or something, then Jay's is around the corner for, guys.
Yeah, so we can take our